Welcome to the Powerline Podcast, the official podcast of GreyStone Power. I'm your host, Adam Elrod. On this month's episode, we're talking all about how data drives decisions at your co-op with Data Coordinator Caitlin McCarthy. So let's jump right on into episode number 31 of the Powerline Podcast. We all use data to make decisions in our lives. Your electric cooperative is no different. Joining us today to talk about how your co-op uses this type of information is Data Coordinator Caitlin McCarthy. Caitlin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
Could you tell our members what your job entails at GreyStone?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm the Data Coordinator at GreyStone Power. My role as the Data Coordinator is to help employees and the co-op as a whole identify key business questions. Once we identify those questions, we can research and help answer those questions. So I help determine where to find the data to answer those questions, and then finally help our employees translate and communicate those findings in meaningful ways. In other words, I put together puzzles or I find pieces to puzzles. Employees come to me with a puzzle to solve, or they come to me with most of a puzzle, and I find the missing pieces to help them solve that puzzle.
Data analytics is a newer area of focus for electric co-ops. Can you explain what data analytics is and why it's important to the co-op?
Of course. So data analytics is a process which entails taking a close look at or just analyzing data to find things like trends, correlations, or patterns among that data. Those findings can be used to create valuable insights, and those insights can be used to predict possible future trends, or maybe to diagnose current issues, or describe why something is happening. So it can help with business efficiency and with member satisfaction, which is obviously very important to us.
So the member satisfaction, like you said, finding trends, that's all sounds like a really good piece. And, I started the podcast talking about how we use data to make decisions. You kind of touched on a little bit, but I have to ask, how does GreyStone use in full data to make decisions?
Well, you're very right. Everyone does make data-driven decisions, whether we actually notice it or not. A data-driven decision can be something as simple as, I'm going to wear a sweater today since it might be chilly outside. The data that you collected was the temperature or the weather outside, and the decision you made based off of that data was to wear a sweater. So with the addition of my role to GreyStone Power and some data analytics tools, we can now make even better data-driven decisions. Some information we've looked at recently helps us play offense instead of defense. And with some of this information we've looked at, we're able to work a bit more proactively instead of reactively in a lot of situations. Doing so helps us save time, it helps us save money, and it helps us save resources that we can then allocate to other things.
So you already mentioned member satisfaction, and we're very member-focused here at GreyStone. How does looking at this data help our members?
Looking at data can help our members in so many different ways. It's something as simple as just figuring out what time of day and week our walk-in department experiences the most and least amount of traffic. So that information can be used to determine when we can schedule meetings or classes, or if we need to hire an entirely new walk-in representative. This information will help us create a better experience for our members in the long run.
So my job looks at data on a much smaller scale than yours and, looking at, again, satisfaction. And sometimes you find interesting information. Is there data that you can tell members about that brought to light something you wouldn't have expected?
I feel like every time I look at data, I find something that I wouldn't expect. But we do have a few reports that notify or alert us when orders or tasks aren't working as efficiently as possible, or maybe have gotten lost in the shuffle. This allows us to address those situations quickly, rather than having those situations being looked over like they might have in the past. A couple of areas we've looked into more recently involves electric vehicles, especially with the cost of gas increasing, and rooftop solar installations in our service area. When we take a look at those numbers, it helps us determine trends. And with those defined trends, we're able to determine how much time and how much of our budget we should really focus on EVs or rooftop solar installations, now and in the future.
So it's a great piece because we're looking at everything holistically, and it's not just going with our gut. And that's always a great thing when you have something to back up decisions being made. So I ask everybody the exact same last question. Is there anything you'd like to tell our members?
Just that ultimately, with the addition of data analytics, we are just looking to make the best decisions we can make to ensure that our members are happy and that our co-op is working as efficiently as possible.
Well, Caitlin, I can't thank you enough for being part of episode number 31 of the podcast.
Well, thank you.
Well, that is all the time we have today. Thank you so much for joining us for episode number 31 of the Powerline Podcast. Make sure you hit subscribe so you get each new episode directly into your podcast feed. And rate us 5 stars so other members will see us come up in their podcast feed as well. This has been the Powerline Podcast. Thanks for listening.